ATPI, delivering what really matters.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Speed Freaks Chat Show, episode 6, with myself, Scott Nicholls, and as always, my old mate Brando, who, for some reason on my predictive tips, comes up as Brandy, much to his delight. All brought to you by our title sponsors, ATPI Travel. As you know, this show is all about legends of the Speed Freak genre, and we've got a proper legend join us today. Who is it, Brando?
We have, Scotty. We've got a two-time World Under-21 champion, who's now trying his hand at being a Speedway promoter, and among the three of us, he's the most recent to become a father. Yes, it's Mr. Darcy Ward.
Well, thanks for joining us, Darcy. With the time difference, we're morning here, evening there. So, what's been on the to-do list today, mate? Well, actually, are you a list person or do you just wing it on a daily basis?
Just wing it, but we've definitely... Oh, hey, everybody. We've definitely got to be planning things these days. It's not as easy as what it was 3 months ago. So... not much today, mate. On Mondays, Charlie goes and sees a lady. Which is Martin Rogers. Anyone know Martin Rogers?
Yep. Yeah. Used to promote at Kings Lynn, yeah.
It's the next street from me. So he's doing a DVD about me at the moment. So we got to meet up and we've been hanging out a lot lately. And then his wife looks after Charlie on a Monday. So we get an arvo off during a week and do our own thing with me and Liz. So we did that today, and we just did some stuff around the house. So
cool.
Pretty typical.
We said it in our introduction that you were the newest dad among the three of us. I mean, it's a great experience and it's cool, but it does change your life, doesn't it? Quite readily, quite quickly.
Yeah, I think like to adapt is the time. Even before Charlie, I thought I didn't have time.
And lack of time.
Thought I was like, oh man, I don't have time for a 9-to-5 job. I don't have time. And then Charlie comes along, and it's more like you got to, any spare time you've got, you have to use it. You got to use it straight away. There's no sitting around waiting for nothing. You got to go do what you got to do when Charlie's not being occupied or whatever. But Liz is obviously doing a major job and she's killing it. So it does. I've got the easy part, mate. I just give him a feed and bounce him around. And
we've always got the easy bit. All we do is sow the seed and the rest is down to nature. So
yeah. But so it's been fun. Been really good.
Cool. Well, okay. So obviously you were a little baby once. So what was mini Darcy into as a kid? Obviously, there's definitely a speed freak element there. That's what the show is all about. So what got you into the speed element with the racing and the bikes, and at what age were you when that all kicked in?
Yeah, so my old boy raced Speedway here in Australia. It's just a weekend warrior. Just he rode for Australia once when England come out here and did a couple of tests. He rode at reserve at the Ekka and all that kind of stuff. And as a kid, when he was doing that, I was sitting in the grandstand at the Ekka and, with 30 of Dad's mates and the whole crew they had, that all pretty much rode with you, Mick Power, Tony Rose, all those kind of people. So it was in my blood straight away, or I was shown it straight away and hung around it a lot. And then, I don't really, I sort of remember it, but I don't. But at my dad's old house, he had a round table, and I had one of those. They're the most common little trike. It's made out of plastic, and it's got the blue wheels with the red forks, and it's yellow. It's the most common bike. So I had one of them and used to just do laps after lap around the table, and
Who did you pretend to be? You had to pretend to be someone.
That's a good question. I don't know. I know as a kid, probably Crumpy.
Yeah.
Because I had DVDs of Crumpy, when they had the Grand Prix, and for me as a kid, I didn't know about like British racing, Poland, Sweden. Like, so all I knew was like there's this world championship, this Grand Prix, like, and there wasn't DVDs back then, so it was VCRs. So dad had a couple of them, and my parents were split up, so I would go to my dad's like on the weekends if we weren't racing, and like obviously we would ride bikes. He had a wrecking shop that had a bit of land beside it, so I used to go ride my bike pretty much every day that I was up there. And as soon as the sun went down, put on Speedway DVDs or VCRs, and the Grand Prix then, Crumpy was the man, bouncing off fences and doing crazy stuff. So
Was it always going to be Speedway, or was that? I mean, you obviously rode other sorts of motorcycles, but was Speedway always going to be the thing you thought you were going to go on and race?
Once I was racing, yeah, but I started out doing motocross. I did it for about a year, and we didn't do Speedway. Speedway, you got to start at 7 here in Australia, like the junior. So like I was riding a Pee-wee, I don't know, I must have been like 6 going to the motocross track or something. I remember going once with my mum after school for a practice day, and I think I crashed and might have hurt my arm or something. And that was a couple of crashes that I'd had, and mum was getting with it, or obviously was worried. So, then dad got me into dirt track, which is like on a motocross bike but flat. So I did that until I turned 7 pretty much, and then got into Speedway. But I assumed dad was going to push me to Speedway when it was ready, but because I was too young, it was like, oh, well, you may as well go ride your bike at a track and do something like that. So yeah.
And you came to Europe. I know people know you started riding here in the National League in England, and then had some great experiences in Poland as a mid-teenager, but you'd come to Europe and raced in World Championship before that even.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, I went over the first year, which is like 07 or 06, and went to Skarbæk in Denmark for the 80cc World Championship. Me and Sam Masters, we come over and did that. We just went there and like rented bikes and pretty much winged it, but we both made it to the final 16, and my bike blew up, so I was. I obviously didn't do very good. We only hired one bike each pretty much. So, but Sam did pretty good. And then the year after, Ivor Harm from BRTS, who was my longtime junior sponsor, he ended up buying me I had 2 fresh 80s. I had 2 fresh frames that we fully set up over there. And we went to win it. We almost put in like too much effort. Sometimes when you go there with like everything, you put too much effort into it, it didn't work out. I did worse than what I did when we winged it the year before, which happens sometimes. But so and then when I was over there doing 80s, like we went to England and did a couple second halves at Kings Lynn, and was just getting the mix into the mix. My dad always thought that, if we were over there for a month traveling around watching it, it's gonna get me hungry and get me a taste for it. So we're also experimenting with what kind of club, where do we want to go, and who wants me in a way, trying to put my name out there. So they were valuable months in those years that we spent over there for sure.
Well, you were definitely a young pup coming over, and certainly your name got pushed around a lot. You started at Buxton, I believe, was it? Doing the National League? Boston, sorry. I got the B right. Yeah, and then, so what were your first thoughts when you come to the UK? Obviously, a real young lad. It must have been a pretty big eye-opener for you.
Yeah, and I hung around at Kings Lynn like most of the time because John Oliver was there, and he's from Brisbane, and when I started Junior Speedway, he was like just finishing out sort of thing, and him and my old boy, his old boy and my old boy were mates, so that was the connection there straight away, which is why we were in Kings Lynn. It was like the only one I knew, and Batch was up that way too, and he's a Brisbane boy too, so his old boy and my old boy were mates. So we sort of hung around Kings Lynn there, and it was an experience. Like obviously, it just got me super hungry to go there. Like I remember Trevor Harding riding and Batch riding, and I was so so young, but watching this sport with like fans, you know, there's quite a good fan base there, and that kind of thing. And just like, you know, I was obviously knew I was pretty good as a kid, and like to just see that and think like, wow, I could be here one day was hugely beneficial for me. And the old boy put a lot into it and trying to make it smooth and, you know, just get used to it and just, you know, see what it's about. And soften Buster up really to sign me. But once Buster saw me ride, and I think I did like a King of the Pride or something it was called there.
Pride of the East, would that have been?
Pride of the East.
Pride, sorry. I did that when I rode for Boscombe. I don't know how to say it.
Boston.
I threw you off for Buxton, didn't I?
I always get it wrong. Yeah, they threw me in that meet, and I was riding one of Buster's power slide bikes. I had like Batch's roller from the year before, and then the engine I had was one of Buster's power slide motors. So like that's what I was riding when I was over there for Boston. And then I won a race in the Easter Pride, I think, and beat like Rory and a couple other riders. And like it was just like it was, you know, I won a heat like as this kid, like that. No one, well, I guess people just started to learn me, but so that was cool. But that was just another, you know, the opportunity that I guess my dad gave me, you know.
I remember you coming and like you just said then, you know, then people started to know who you were. And obviously I'd heard this name bouncing around, but didn't really know too much. And I remember I was at Coventry and you come there one night, and I don't know if you were with Kings Lynn or guesting. And I thought I can team ride pretty decent. And
I think I guessed it for Peterborough, yeah.
Yeah, well, you obviously know the race because I was in front and I can't remember who I was team riding with now. And I was like, yeah, we got this. And there's this young Darcy kid. And next minute, come between the pair of us. I was like, where'd he come from? And then I chased him down. I couldn't catch him. I was like, underestimated him.
Yeah, right. Okay. I didn't know that story. That's cool. That's cool to know. Because like even, you know, I remember going to Kings Lynn and I think it was my first Elite League match in Peterborough, and got me a guest book and there. And I even remember going there like far out, like Scotty Nicholls. There was
and just whipped his ass.
And there was someone else, and it was just obviously a huge opportunity for me to just keep doing what I was doing. But you know, I was also riding in Poland like my first year. So like, you know, I always say to people, that was massive too, to be able to go to Torren and race with Sullivan and you know, Chris and all those top guys. And like every weekend I went, like I learnt so much, like just everything, you know, obviously to be more fluent on a big track, and like what I was learning with Sully and like hanging around Chris and bouncing off Chris and just the vibe out there, and then come back to Kings Lynn every week. You know, I had so much, every week was just a learning curve for me. So
we've talked about that learning curve thing in the past, and how much is that accelerated by the fact that you were able to ride every day almost you wanted to ride. You could practice so much and put into practice what you'd looked at in videos and what you watched other guys doing. Must really accelerate the learning curve.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in like handlebar time, no matter what it is. Like for me, out of all of these people riding Speedway, I think that I've sat behind handlebars more than anybody, you know, like whether it's like I had a 50 track in my backyard. When I went to Midlows, I had a 50 track. Like when I lived at Kings Lynn, he had the power slide bikes that I used to ride in the car park around Witches Cones, you know, to be raining. And I'd be like, yes, I'm going out of the car park, like, and just flog this 125, just flog him, like, oh. But you know, I did it with Jan Gravison, and I started doing it, and I started helping Jan a little bit, and I was telling him, hey, you need to come and ride in the car park with me, and you'll pick up so much, you know, like just around a Witches Cone and having fun. You know, you can learn so much having fun and that kind of thing. And even in Torren, we had a motocross track out the back, and there was just so much around me that I had so much choice to be behind the handlebars like every day of my life. You know, like I said, my dad had a record shop, and he had a bit of land, fortunately, so I got to ride there. And for about 2 years, he made the car park a speedway track, so I had a junior speedway track, and we travelled Australia like every weekend once I got good with Ivor. And, we put in the hard yards and, even with, we've helped him Dougie and stuff a little bit lately. I just tell him, man, handlebar time, no matter what it is, if it's a CRF 50 and you're doing wheelies and you're playing with the throttle and you're learning your balance, it's all good,
Do you know what? That's a really good point you make there. It's I'm sort of involved with some of the training schools over here a little bit, and I'll say to riders when they're on the track, we all get sucked into in the Grand Prix, you see it, everyone wants to ride that fast line all the time, but practice is having fun on the bike and cutting back, feeling what the bike's doing, going inside, outside and playing with those things. And you just hit on something about throttle control. You're a rider that came in when the laydowns and all the short strokes, and so many of the riders now have zero throttle control. Even in the Grand Prix, the elite runs now are just on the stop. I remember seeing you at the industry race in America. You came over there and literally no practice, and he's like, yeah, I'll go in. And I was like, you need to practice around here. It's like, it's not a normal track. And I remember watching you come in and I see you rolling the throttle on and off, in and out of the corner. And I was like, he's really on something there. Like, I knew you were a super talented rider, but it's just when you actually watch somebody a little bit more and watch those little bits, that's when you realise that actually this person's got a real feel for a bike. It's not just about having the quickest engine, it's having a feel for that engine.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, we went through that era of changing to laydowns, and that was a hard era for a lot of people. Like, look at Crumpy, got beat by Ricartson 6 times, but Crumpy could have been how many world champion? Lee, like that whole era when everybody had to learn, it was super hard. When now, like, it's almost getting harder because there's that transition's done, and now all these riders just know one thing, and all the Grand Prix are pretty big tracks. I mean, we're obviously going through a crazy time right now, but like Poland and that, they're all the same. Like, I would, you could send half of these riders to any track in England and they'd go, they're not going to get around it. You know what I mean?
They turn into a northerner overnight.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it would just, but that's the two differences of the sport of England and, what these big guys are riding at the moment is just fast and flat out. And, obviously some of them still have throttle control and that, but it's not necessary to be using and that kind of thing, where when you ride in England, like, there's two ways the throttles go. Otherwise you're coming down some places, and it's so close racing and it's not close racing where you're sideways and you just spin it up and you can't get speed. It's like tracks and like you're close and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's definitely a big learning curve. I think it's a shame that more of the boys don't come over, but like you said, the Grand Prix scene that's where anyone who's got ambition wants to be, but the tracks generally are quite big, fast, and so now the emphasis on the riders almost going away from the UK to Poland kind of makes sense. But it is a shame because 100%, we've seen some of the world's best come to England and really struggle because they can't ride on a patchy track, a tight technical track, and you and a lot of other guys did it exceptionally well.
And I got a couple like kids here now that I just turned on the 500s and stuff like that, and they're asking me, there's a couple of kids from Australia lately that have just gone straight to Poland, like Matt Gilmore and his Braden McGuinness and a couple others have gone straight to Poland, and a couple of these kids here that I'm helping are asking me, hey, like, do we go to England or do we go to Poland? I still think like, man, you need to go to England and you need to learn to ride because like when you go to Poland, when you learn in England and then go to Poland, you can learn both. But when you go to Poland and you get stuck to go back, you're not going to learn that because you're going to really struggle. You're better off learning the first,
Quite hard to learn to ride Wrocław and then go and try to learn Wolverhampton afterwards, isn't it?
Mate, it would even be hard to go to Wrocław and then go to Poole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that would, these riders wouldn't get around Poole as quick on a, it's rough and like it's not even like the track, it's like the whole stadium and like they're not as big and the whole thing's like daunting to it. Like the whole vision of it would really spook them out, like a greyhound track on the outside, like a grandstand over there, they'd be like, wow, like they would be blown out, So these kids that I still think, go to England, go learn your throttle, and then you go learn your balance and your weight out in Poland.
There's a good observation you make there about the tracks and everything. It's kind of one of those things where, especially UK fans, that they see the tracks and don't really appreciate that a lot of the tracks over here are really quite narrow, where kind of when you're on the track, they feel that way. It's almost like, it's weird that we naturally do this thing like that, like, because the track makes you do that. You kind of, how many times have you seen riders down the straight like, oh, because you're coming together, and like you said, when you're used to that wide open, it's a luxury. So if a bike pack lifts or something, you're just like, oh, whatever, we've got plenty of room. Whereas over here, it's like, oh.
I wish I could make myself as narrow as you guys. Even when I do that, I can't get that skinny.
You're a rugby player, that's why.
Yeah, okay, thanks. One of the things we do talk about on the show, Darcy, is the talent that we're talking to and their talent away from motorcycles. Do you have a talent you can share with us?
Not anymore. Not too much I can do now. What's my talent now? Yeah, no, not at the moment. I've definitely
not lined up any like car jumps on your wheelchair yet. Then like,
I've had a couple stacks.
No, do you know what? There's one thing I do not question with you. Okay, you're in a wheelchair now, but I know you're still going to be pushing the envelope. I've seen and heard that when you're on crutches with a broken ankle or something, and you're on a dance floor and still getting wobbly. So there's no question that the wheelchair is not going to stop you from wanting to do something stupid. No question.
I've had a couple moments where I got this Baytech thing, and it bolts onto the front of my wheelchair, and it's an electric motor, and it goes about 25 k's an hour. But they come governed, and they come at 9 kilometers an hour. And I got on this thing and was like, this is piss poor. We got to sort this out. So we
tune her up a bit.
Went on Google, and it just had like a grub screw in it. So we wound the grub screw out and got the beast going. But I've had a couple moments in it, and I fell out of it a couple times. Oh, the worst time was not even my fault.
Who should have been excluded?
If my dog Bear. I was taking him out for a walk, and I got like because my hands are. It doesn't have like a throttle. The handlebars move down to go, and you push them forward to brake. So I was going for a walk with my dog, and like for the first 10 meters, my dog's a pain in the ass. He's just like pulling on the lead, like, let's go. So I just stopped when I got out the front and just got on my phone to put some music on while I went for a ride, and I wrapped his lead around my handlebar, and he's gone to pull the lead, and it's pulled me throttle. Pulled the handlebar down, and I've pulled my throttle on. I took off, and like out the front of mine, there's like a big bush with like, I don't know, 6 palm trees in it. And he's just
only got 5 now.
He's just pulling on this lead, and he's pulling on it the whole time. So I'm like, it's pulled me back. I've guided with one hand through the middle of the palm trees, and now I'm in the bush, and like he's just still pulling on it. And I was just about to get near this drain and I was like, I couldn't get him off. And the front wheel's spinning, and like it's taken off. So I had to bail out. I just jumped out of my chair to get out because I couldn't get him on the throttle. So that was probably my best one. And then the best moment, that was the best one. And
you haven't got a video of that, have you?
Yeah, it was on my security home, my camera at home, out the front. So
you have got a talent with a talent. You can crash your wheelchair, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's all good fun.
Actually, well, talent-wise, I mean, we've seen you. Excuse, I've actually got tears. I was cracking up there. Sorry. We've seen that you're heavily involved with Speedway still in Australia, which is fantastic. And you touched on it a bit earlier. So with the children and kind of training and then showing that is a skill. I mean, there'll be some pictures pop up that we can see just with you with the kids now showing your talents. Do you know what? That really is a talent, because there's a lots of the world's best riders in any sport or discipline, but they can't actually transfer it to other people. So it really is a talent to be able to share your knowledge and advice with people, because I know lots of people can't do that. So you must get a lot of pleasure out of that.
Yeah, and to be honest, like it's hard, to be honest, like to translate what I was doing or or what I see in other riders. It's hard. Like, you know, you have to respect whoever you're trying to teach to and what their level is, and like how you give that info, because, you know, they could just be like, because they've never been to that level and experience what you tell them, they're like, how, what do you mean, you know? So yeah, so from translating it to like my brain and then trying to give it best to them where they're going to understand it, and you know, trying to figure out what their level is of whereabouts in my brain are they ready for, sort of thing, you know.
So, like you said, a lot of it is a feel, and you can't tell someone how to feel something on a bike, like especially from the start or on a track. It's you know, you can look at somebody and say, right, you want to be starting to shift your weight back at that point, but that's not bulletproof, because it's all about the track. You know, you shift your weight back too early and you're off the back. It's kind of the ride's got to feel that. So I appreciate it's really hard to
yeah. And, you know, if they haven't felt it before, then obviously that's a challenge too, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's been good just doing what I'm doing, and like it's a privilege for me, really. And I don't know anything else. Like, you know, like we just spoke about talents, I got nothing else going. So I'm happy that the opportunity was given to me with what we're doing in Brisbane. And yeah, it's good for me, good for my family. And yeah.
You mentioned that we mentioned it when we introduced you, that North Brisbane Speedway now, you're the official promoter of that track. I mean, A, how did it come about? And B, what does it mean in terms of business life for Darcy Ward?
Yeah, so it's come about. Like, this is the club that I grew up racing at. Like, it was the first time I rode Speedway at. It's where Batch is from. It's where John Oliver is from. We all race there, and yeah, so I've always raced like here, and when I come home in Australia and stuff like that. And it's also a dirt track club, so that's where I did dirt track for my juniors and that kind of thing. And it's only a volunteer club, so like the Speedway and dirt track people who are all volunteers, some of them clashed heads a bit. Like, people want to do things for the dirt track, people want to do things for the Speedway, and it was just getting a bit nasty up top. So they made an executive decision to put out like a point of interest for someone to come take over the Speedway. And I was just getting involved then, like, you know, since COVID started and Dougie come back and stayed here, and then, you know, he'd approach me and said, "Oh, yeah, well, can you help me? Like, we've got a year off. Can you help me? Blah, blah, blah." And I'd already helped him a little bit.
Ryan Douglas, right?
Yeah. So then I was helping Dougie a bit, and I was just, you know, I'd been out to watch the Speedway at the time I was injured and here, but I'd never gone down to the pits. Like, it's real grassy and like it's dirt and I can't get around. And I used to just not really, it's not, I just enjoyed the hill. I liked having a beer and watching the Speedway on the hill, you know. But then, yeah, when Dougie come back, I started showing my face down in the pits. And yeah, I'm not sure if the club or you know, the people involved seen the interest that I had a little bit brought before they put out the points of interest. And yeah, they put out a expression of interest of someone to take over the Speedway. I'm not sure whether they did that for me to see if I would, you know, step up and do something good. And yeah, I ended up doing it and putting something forward to them of, you know, a business model and an agreement and all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, it's been going good. I mean, it's definitely easier to just turn up and race a bike than to have to deal with Speedway riders and all that.
I hope there's no promoters watching this.
Yeah. So, it's been good. It's, you know, I was already a little bit of a business person because, like, you know, people don't, you know, when I was racing in the Grand Prix, like, I'm my manager, sponsor finder, my accommodation, I'm everything, you know. I'm running the whole ship behind scenes. I didn't have a manager, you know, so so I have a little bit of Speedway business, but I mean, Lizzie helps for sure with a lot of stuff, and she's sort of that sort of thing at, you know, typing up and making my language go into paper form. Yeah, but so that's just the business that, we're trying to. I mean, yeah, we're trying to run a business for sure, and we want to build it up, and I want to provide for my family and do the best I can. But that will, if I do what I do with the kids and just do the best I can at the club and put on good shows and help the kids. Like I don't want to make money off the kids. I just do it. I just want to help the kids that come and ride at Brisbane. And show an appreciation for you coming right at Brisbane. I'll put my 2 bob back. So if I do that kind of thing and just build it up, then, everything around it will just come naturally and, the show will get bigger and bigger and better and better. And, I still we're just trying to do what we can. And, it's not just me and like Lizzie, on the day, like, my family's fully, because on the day I do a lot of stuff beforehand. And then leading on to the day, I try to be more involved with the riders. So, like, I sort of step back with running it. And everybody has their roles they play with, Wayne Kennedy doing my track and my whole family's involved. And, getting all these old Speedway riders that are retired, like Mick Powell and Tony and his mate Alan and me start man, Big Tony, and then got all my officials. And they're all the same people, with Apsy and Tracy and all that. And, we've got a good crew. And I think it's a good bit of fresh breath air here in Brisbane. And to be honest, mate, I think Speedway in Australia right now is probably stronger than it's been for the last 5 years. There's a real movement here. And I think everybody's got a bit of fresh air. You're like, not just me in Brisbane. Like, there's a lot of things around Brisbane for sure with my involvement. But I think everybody else has seen what's going on here and gone, oh, like, we better step up. Like, yeah, this is good. So, I think everybody would say here in Speedway in Australia, there's been a bit of fresh air, the last year. So, pretty.
That's cool. I mean, I think anything, a new injection of life, a bit of fresh air. I mean, and somebody obviously with your reputation and your success obviously goes an awful long way. And Speedway is very much you just touch on all those people that help. It's very much a family unit. It's a very close knit sport. Great to hear. There's already some brilliant Aussie boys over here now. So, is there a few we need to be looking out for in the future?
It's tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky to say. I've seen good junior kids go nowhere, and then kids turn 16, and by 18 they're good riders. So it's too hard to say. I don't want to put pressure on any of the kids that will probably watch this back or anything, but. There's some good kids. Like even Boise does a lot too with the juniors at the moment. He deserves a lot of credit. Like him and Mick Holder do an awful good job what they've done the last 2 years with kids down their way. And he's the one that's got some good riders. I mean, man, I could mention 8 of them, and I got to see him ride about 6 weeks ago, and like I don't remember being that good as a kid. So mate, I tell you. In 8 years' time, or whatever the time is for, there's about 10 kids here that are all pretty good at the moment. Mate, England or wherever they go, riders coming from Australia is looking good. We got some good kids.
You mentioned that, and they're the next phase of that, and there's some great names there, etc., etc. One of the things we've touched on a lot with people as we've gone through the series is, and you kind of alluded to it, the desire bit, or the how much can you help yourself bit. You can't really teach that, can you?
No. And, we've spoke about that, about a week ago with somebody. But, I mean, you can teach, you can tell them, you can pass on knowledge that's going to be useful or whatever. But if they don't have, the destiny or the desire in their heart, or, you need that extra bit to go further. And at the end of the day, it's only how far do you want to go, and what's it in you, and what do you want to sacrifice to be the best or whatever. So you can't teach that, but that comes from your roots, and like riding junior bike as a speedway, and speedway as a junior, and all that long time to build up and go try get that desire, right? It's what's in you. But you can't teach that. But
you say about the desire, and it is, I mean, every kid's dream is to be in the Grand Prix, and I was fortunate enough to be there, but I struggled. It was a hard world. you know, right at the outset of the show, you said you wing it, that's you, and you was always, most of the Aussie boys are really laid back and pretty chill, but you can see sometimes people cover the nerves by being kind of over chilled, but you went into the Grand Prix, did exceptionally well. But were there any aspects of it that you did struggle with a little bit, but you were able to cover by being Darcy, so to speak?
I think my professionalism was my downfall. Like, because before I got suspended, like 2014, when I got suspended, I was taking it really serious, but I had a bit of bull happen in my life, and I made a silly mistake, and it is what it is. But then, like 2013, when I was riding, I broke my shoulder, but if I had stayed in the Grand Prix and scored the same amount of points, I would have been world champion. But like that year, like I didn't do anything different from 2009 to 2013. Like my first year in the Grand Prix, I was still being a goose, man. Like, I was doing no fitness, and like I was still drinking a little bit and partying, and I was just living the life, like my grassroots. Like I come from nothing, and my family, my junior bikes before either, like what did my dad give me was boxes, but like we had good motors, like, but you know what I mean? Like I come from the low roots. So once I got up there, I was like earning money, and like people were looking at me and being somebody. Like I lived in the moment probably too much, but yeah, once the first year of the Grand Prix got out of my way, and I was like, I didn't win. Like, I mean, I still went there. I was doing what I was doing in 2013 and still thought I was going to be world champion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was doing nothing to be world champion. If I had been world champion in 2013, it wouldn't have been good for my career, because I would have just thought, I can do this, no worries. So, to not win 2013, which I knew I could have, but like I didn't really go into the series wanting it enough. I didn't put enough into it. So then the next year in 2014, I put a lot into it, and it was better. But it was the year obviously that I got suspended, and I had a tough occurrence in the middle of that year.
I know I was hard on you on what happened, and I remember talking to you in Torrent after I was quite vocal about what I said, and I remember having a chat with you, and we don't need to go into it, but it was after that though, you came back a different rider, and I think it's a blessing in disguise, if I'm honest. I said that to you, but I think you're such a talented rider, and you just said there you necessarily didn't put the effort in the first place. Do you think you weren't putting the effort in prior to that because you knew you were so talented, you relied on your talent, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so, right? Like, for sure. Like, I don't know. I don't really what else to pinpoint on. Like, just because, like, I was winging it. Like, I was still scoring points, earning money. Like, I was still, I was like a top 10 rider from 2 years after being there. Like, well, I was in the World Championship. I got offered it and denied it, and like 2-time world champion. Like, everything just come at me like so fast, and I guess I just kept living in that moment for maybe a year or two too long. And me and Chris were probably the last riders in Speedway to party. To be honest, like now it's a totally different sport now. Like there's no chance, no one's doing. No, I don't even. I'm not even over there, but I tell you, no one's doing what me and Chris are doing. We were sort of the last two riders to do that before that era, and it sort of slowed down. But then me and Chris come in, like got this another Aussie mate who's like killing it too, and like we're racing Europe. It just, for sure. My talent was getting me. Talent will only get you so far, though.
You mentioned Grand Prix now, and it's a good time to maybe switch on to that. The pit lane now and the lifestyle of a speedway rider at the top level now is, fitness, maybe not as much handlebar time in real racing, but the Grand Prix seems to have gone to a different level now.
Yeah. I mean, the Grand Prix is at a huge level at the moment, and I think that's just comes with any sport, right? Like every sport develops, and it gets harder and harder because we all want it more and more, and these kids, are coming in, and it's a whole new game in this day and age. But I wish my one regret in my career is I wish I switched to that earlier. But it wasn't to be. You spoke about it a little bit earlier, Scotty, that it was a blessing that what happened to me in 2014, and I would never take that back. It was a blessing. Like it turned me into an animal, mate. Like I was so hungry. Like I was so hungry to come back in 2015, and I was so angry at FIA. I was probably angry at myself for what happened, and I just wanted to come back and show you who's number one is. I was so hungry for it. And that was the way my career was meant to play out, I do believe, for me to get suspended and then come back and dominate and then come back and probably, do whatever I was going to do in my career. But obviously the day I had my accident, it's just a freak thing. And, you can't, I lived life on the edge. So whatever happened before I come back being super serious and fit and all that kind of stuff, I guess I lived my life to the max. So it is what it is, right? Now you look back, I guess now I'm in a chair and I look back, I guess if I knew this was going to happen, I guess I probably would have done what I'd done because I just went and had a good time, so it worked out well.
You for sure had a good time, and certainly, man, live, the fans were certainly entertained, and I was entertained watching you and frustrated the amount of times you passed me as well, but we won't go on that because it's going to...
Well, I was saying to Brando a couple of weeks back, man, I don't know, there was a couple of years there where me and you just kept bumping into each other. Like there was something about, there was honestly a curse over us. Like every race we race each other, we would hit elbows. And it wasn't even just on the start. We did a couple of things down straight.
I've still got an engine that's got fins missing where I clouted into you down the straight at Paul.
Yeah, I mean, and we did it I just remember, I've never had a couple battles on the track with someone that I just remember, but with you, it pops in my head that was a bit of a hard hit. Again, Scotty, what's going on here, And I even remember one time, I must have been trying to team ride somewhere and we bumped into each other, and me coming into me afterwards going, you need to cut that out.
It was Bellevue.
What's it, Bellevue?
Yeah, it was Bellevue, and you shut off big time going over the finish line, and I was like, where do I go? It's I was like, mate, that was a brilliant race. I couldn't get past you. I was pissed off.
Good times.
Yeah. GPs. Topical. Are you a fan of the new starting system?
It's not proven me. I would say your first thought is no, because you want the referee, but it's not proven to be too bad, I don't think. We've had some good. I don't know. I don't mind I like the long holds. I like the hold. I like to test. To the green light go is I wasn't ready. You beat me. But when you hold it and you got that tensity, I like that. I think that brings out a better rider than the green light go. So I'm glad the machine does that a little bit more. But I don't mind it. I mean, it hasn't done any faults where I go against it.
It's interesting because it came up in the Olympics recently with the 100-metre men's final that the British athlete got excluded for a false start. And Michael Johnson, the 400-metre gold medalist from way back, he said it's almost like a cardinal sin because you should be concentrating at that point that a false start is almost unacceptable. And you look at some of these guys now, and it's whether it's nerves or lack of concentration, but it almost, bikes now don't move. So the only reason it moves is you get trigger happy. And it you kind of wonder what their thought process is that we see repeat offenders doing it.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's not as nerves. It's more just, I don't know. It just happens sometimes, Sometimes you can't help it. You don't even know you've done it, but you move. You're I moved.
But then then you get the warning system as well. I mean, I'm not a fan just because I think the Grand Prix, I mean, part of it is anticipating, but you're like a cold spring at the start line. I mean, your fingers are twitching away because you know that you've got to get to that first turn. So, you have a little nibble or something like that, and then you get a warning and pull back. I'm like, oh, come on, then you've got that on your back the whole night. I think
it's hard to, I think it could be definitely altered. They got the right idea, but if you move and you punish yourself, then you're an idiot. But if even getting get a warning in heat 1, and then you got to run that all the way to the final, and then in the final, comes to Torrent, and this finals for a world championship, and you've had a warning, and you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just it's a bit too much, but it's good. They got the right idea.
I know from your social media you're not a huge fan of the points system as it stands now.
Yeah, I'm not. I think with Speedway, we're not like any other sport. Your MotoGP, your motocross, whatever. They have one big race in that day, and they do 25 laps where obviously, I don't need to point out, but we're 4 laps 7 times or 5 times. So, it'd just be a bit more valuable for the whole series to have every heat counted. Every point you got, you raced for, not be given points. Because that's the way it is. People have been given points. That's the way the system works. And go back. I like this double points in the finals, the way they had it. I think it was a great system. We're like nothing else.
You'd think, I mean, obviously we're unique, and one of the things that was talked about was, people don't feel comfortable with the winner of a Grand Prix not having the most points. But if you win the final, you win the Grand Prix. We know that that's how it's worked since '95. But I'm kind of with you in that, to me, every race counts, every point counts. And if you win the last race and you got 15 and the other bloke scored 18, that's probably a reflection of how the night's gone for you.
Exactly right. Exactly. That's how the night's gone for you. And it's just, I don't know, it's a bit more fit. I don't know. It is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. But it's just a funny one with, and it's only 2 points extra to win 20 and 18. And then Wolfie's first night, he got 7th and gets 7 points. It's just I don't know. It's a tricky one. I understand why they did it, because someone tweeted me that, it's about the newcomer understanding that the winner of the Grand Prix gets the most points and all that kind of stuff, and trying to get it. But I mean, are you really going to lose fans from not having the point system they know? Or
most people, I think, would understand that if the last race of the night's Heat 23 and the bloke that wins that is the winner of the Grand Prix, a lot of people aren't worried about points, are they?
Not really.
Points accumulate, don't they?
Points accumulate. You
don't have to be a mathematician, do you, to go, well, he was the best rider on the night. And
if they're worried about points, well, they're going to watch the next one anyway and figure it out, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%.
We've seen a few times where there's been exclusions from a rider where it's been 100% 50-50. Sometimes you cannot split it. Now,
on the weekend.
Yeah, but for me, now I've double checked this because I want to make sure it's right. A referee can call all 4 back at any stage of the race if he wants to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, there's been situations where why put someone out if there's a 50-50? I know it's always, we know there's sod's law that whoever's leading the race, 9 times out of 10 restart, he comes up at the back, but it swings around bounds. But for me, if you can't decide, then put all 4 back.
Yeah, and I mean, the Grand Prix at Wroclaw with Emil and Magic. I mean,
what was your take?
50-50. What do you do? I mean, Emil at the end of the day was slower and was a bit all over the track, is outside, inside, and sort of when someone's faster behind you and went to go to the inside, but didn't know he was there. But at the end of the day, Magic thought he was in front of him by then, which he sort of was, and
because he went over gate 2.
That was a tough one. Either way, you would have been. People are going to be upset, and people are going to be happy about the call. Either way, that's how it was. But then I look at it that if that was Nicky going on the inside with the reputation Nicky has, Nicky would have been out.
It's funny you say that, though, because in my memory, and I won't get my anorak and put it on, but only once in the history of the Grand Prix has a referee done that with all four, and it was Nicky and Greg in Prague. And I remember Greg celebrated with a quite nice hand gesture towards Nicky after he won the rerun. But yeah, so
Yeah, right.
I think one of the things with that is I know I've spoken to referees about it and asked them, and they don't want to create an anarchy situation where people just attempt block passes and take the 50-50. But, you know, like you say, that incident with Magic and Emil in Wrocław, you could argue for both, couldn't you? I mean, Magic's ridden down the straight across gate 2 and was going to be a pretty hard corner to make even if there was no one outside him. But, yeah.
Tough. But I didn't know you could do all four because watching it, I was like, oh, man, wouldn't it be good if you could just do all four? Because really, it's all
To be
four,
fair,
you know?
Similar with Emil and Madsen. I mean, like, Madsen, that was a lesser one, and Madsen got thrown out, so the referee's not consistent. I mean, you know, that's the thing, you can argue both instances, either rider could argue their case. But, yeah.
Before we go to the funny bit, then I'm going to chuck one curveball in. It's only a question for me. It's frustrated me for years. I understand the system with reserves in old style speedway, and if you want to give youngsters a chance to come and look at Grand Prix riders up close, get them involved for practice, which would have been much better in the old days with Friday practice. But what would your take be on if you touch the tapes in a Grand Prix, 15 metres? You penalise yourself big time. You go off 15 metres. You drop the warning system. So if there's a false start for a tape touch or a move, you go off 15 metres. You're in the race.
100%. I don't like the warning system. I think if you anticipate it and you don't touch your tapes, good luck to you because it's all part of the game. Okay, because the other thing that, touching on what you just said there, Brando, which we've seen time and time again, is a reserve comes in and robs points off someone that desperately needs points. Yes, okay, you could say the other rider would have done that, but it's, you know, can you imagine? I mean, we've seen it. I mean, Janowski rode his backside off to pass, I've forgotten the lad's name now, but literally, you know, what would have been if that had been a point to make the semi-finals? You know, it's...
Yeah. No, I guess I've never thought about that, put him off 15. I mean, wow, out in the Grand Prix, 15 metres back, wow, that's a tough...
Well, Janowski did that all night. He didn't make a start.
Yeah, that's true.
And also the fact is that, you know, if you want to streamline it and keep it quicker, you all come round, you know you're off 15, second line down, 1 minute restart, clock goes on, you're back into it again. To me, it's something that could be considered. You're going to, I mean, they do it if you go to other sports. Point. You get 10-second grid penalties for moving at the start. You get grid infractions for the next race for things that have gone wrong. So again, if you want to bring it in line with other stuff, you know, don't get me started on doing away with starting tapes altogether because we've got to move on.
We'll stop you on the serious stuff.
Yeah.
We'll have a bit of fun with you now, Darcy. So we've got some last lap questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So we're going to start off, you might have known this one, the classic Snog, Marry, Avoid. And as you're Australian, we've got a couple of hotties for you. So we're going to start off with Delta Goodrum, Kylie Minogue, and Margot Robbie. Snog, Marry, Avoid.
So what? I got to pick each one.
You got snog one of them, marry one of them, and avoid one of them.
I would probably marry Delta. Snog. What was it? Snog and what?
Kylie Minogue and Margot Robbie.
Yeah. What do I got to do?
Well, you got to snog one of them and avoid one of them.
You've married one already.
You married Delta.
I'd marry Delta, I'd snog Robbie, and I'd avoid Kylie.
Poor old Kylie.
Oh, well.
She won't be upset.
Darcy Ward throws Kylie Minogue on the scrap heap.
Liz is over there listening. She's
That's
going,
right.
Who would she choose? Who would she do?
Liz? Margot what? She'd marry and snog Margot.
Fair play. Okay, we'll leave that one there. Nice quick one from me. Are you a member of the Mile High Club?
No.
Okay.
No, righto. Right. Right, a quick acronym for you. Now, what does this acronym not stand for? So, MA. So, what does MA not stand for? You've got to make something up. It can be rude if you want it to be.
I don't know. Well, in Australia, it stands for Motorcycling Australia.
So, so what does it not stand for?
Motorcycling Austria.
Yeah, that'll do.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Megan Fox.
Oh, good call. Good call. Alrighty. Quick one then. What's better, sex or winning a race?
Depends what race.
It's good that Liz is listening.
Yeah. So I'm going to watch what I say. It depends what race. If it's just any other race, I'd probably pick
the ultimate race then, like a Grand Prix. What's better, win the Grand Prix or sex?
I'd probably take the Grand Prix on that night. You can always come back to the other one. You can't come back to win the Grand Prix.
Valley, do you know what? That's a good point. No one said that one yet.
I've got all the easy questions. When you're in bed, socks on or off?
Off.
That's a given, I think.
Yeah.
Have you ever weed in the shower?
I used to do it all the time until I do.
Yeah.
What are you scared of?
Snakes.
Oh, you're in a good country for that.
Yeah, we don't see them.
Oh, well, it's a good job if you're scared of them.
Yeah. No,
all right, then. Last one on this little subject. Real quick one. Text or call?
Depends who it is.
Text or a caller?
I'm I think I'm a caller. Obviously, I still text a lot, but with my job now, I like to call because people live behind their phones, and like a text message, you can't feel the emotion. I don't know. You just you're texting someone else's phone. You're not texting them. I like to phone call and get to hear and
feel the vibe. Good stuff. Right. Now we come to the last little bit, which was the rude tongue twister. So the tongue twister roulette. So we're going to go through a list of them. We've got 6 of them because we've got the dodgy dice. So number 1 is the pheasant plucker. Number 2 is puggy wuggy. Number 3 is fig plucker. Number 4 is sock cutter. Number 5 is mother hunt. Number 6 is Susie sitting. So is there any there that you kind of want to challenge or avoid?
Any. Give me one.
Well, while you're thinking about it, we're going to roll the dodgy dice. So they're going to go now. We've got a few seconds to see which one comes up. And Susie Sitting hasn't come up many times. So you have got number 2. So you've got Huggy Wuggy. So it's going to have been fired across to you right now. So if you check out your phone, you should have rude tongue twister on there. So we've got no practice runs. We're not in Poland now with must practice. You're straight in cold.
If only I was, eh? Yeah, right. And what do I do? You want me to just?
You just got to read it out as fast as you can.
Oh, I'm not a fast reader.
Let's go.
Might be best in this situation.
Yeah.
Mrs. Puggy Wuggy has a square cut punt, not a punt cut square, just a square cut punt. It's round in the. It's round in the stern and blunt in the front. Mrs. Puggy Wuggy Square has a square cut punt.
Well, let's give you one more. Let's go. Rattle through it as quick as you can now. We've got to get you to
Puggy Wuggy
slip
has
up.
a square cut punt, not a cut square.
Okay, take
just
3.
A square cut punt. It's round the stern, blunt in the front. Miss Puggy Wuggy has a square cut punt. Oh.
There you go. Good effort, sir. Good effort. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We could have talked for hours and hours and hours, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. But it's been really cool getting an insight into what's been going on behind the scenes and where Darcy would all come from.
Yeah, no, thanks. I guess even while you say where I come from and all that, I got a DVD coming out at the end of the year, which has been a huge production that we've been doing with Mike Bennett and Martin Rogers. So it's a huge insight to the wild career I had and where I come from, my roots and my family, and all the Chris stuff, and just pretty much no filter, really giving out what was going on behind the scenes and where I was and all the ups and downs, I guess. So
sounds like an epic watch.
Yeah, no, it should be good.
Sounds like a Christmas stocking filler to me.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us on the Speed Freaks chat show. Make sure and check out all the socials and get in touch with us. All the links will be at the end. And make sure and check out Darcy's link as well, and look out for that DVD stocking filler that will be coming your way.
ATPI, delivering what really matters.